This is Dr. B, host of The Dr. B Show and founder of Borja Consulting Group, a company that helps businesses grow through strategy, branding, and marketing. And this is Leo Young, founder of Cornell Communities, helping investors build wealth through mobile home communities and affordable housing.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Dr. B Show. I'm here with the great Leo Young. Leo, how are you, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
Doing fantastic here on a spring day.
Yes.
Let's jump
No
right
more
in.
snow,
No
hopefully.
more snow. That's it. No mas, no mas, like Roberto Duran.
Yeah.
Boxer reference. Tell everyone about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I'm the founder and managing partner at Cornell Communities. We have two goals. We want to provide more affordable housing to the community and also make our investors excellent risk-adjusted returns.
I love it. Love it. Good, good. And we're gonna get into that. Take a deeper dive as the conversation goes along, right? So, very big on education. So, you went to, you got your education from, pulled from Cornell, TCNJ, European Study Center, SRH University. How did your education experience help you, if at all, with what you're doing now?
So it's funny that you mentioned education. I would say my life has not made sense looking forward. The dots really didn't connect too much. And it's honestly looking back that I was like, okay, it actually made sense. So my education, so I went to TCNJ for undergrad. I think I got into that school because I was a smart person in school, but I was just not applied. So I consistently got B's and even sometimes C's. C's were like, all right, Leo, you could do better than that. But I was like consistent B student. I didn't like to try. I thought it was uncool to try in school. So I never did. And I didn't have good role models. So I just ended up there. But I was fortunate to have found the path. I was like, wow, okay, I guess like academics really matter. So, I kind of turned things around, figured out like I can actually learn and, did decently well, towards the latter half of my college career. And yeah, I mean, I did a certificate at Cornell for commercial real estate. I think that was a really useful experience as well, just to kind of see how, like an institution like that thinks about real estate. And how that really helps me, honestly, like I would be lying if I said it helped a lot. I would say the thing it's helped the most is just my ethic, my work ethic and how to learn, how to just pack on skills into your tool belt.
Makes sense. Sometimes it's not a straight line, right? Or like it's not black and white. Like you go to nursing school, you become a nurse. You go to law school, you become a lawyer, right? So sometimes, like it might, like you're similar to me, which is why I think we connect well. Like all over
Yeah.
the place, but eventually,
Yeah,
like you take a little bit of experience here and there, and eventually mold you right into what you're doing today, right? So I
exactly.
think you could agree there. So cool, man. Awesome. So I saw, and then we'll get into the Tesla in a little bit. So I saw you work with one of my partners now, NJEDA, for a little short
Oh
stint.
yeah. Yeah.
Tesla,
Yeah.
Sunrun, Coldwell Banker, Symphony Wireless, Compass, right? And we'll talk about Compass in a little bit as well. So, what did that experience teach you and what you're doing today? Like
Hmm.
from everything,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all those
I
experiences.
think the beauty of life is that you don't need to be afraid that your resume doesn't connect. I used to care about that a lot. I'm like, okay, what story am I crafting to people? But honestly, like do what you're passionate about because then when you do that, that's when the work pours out of you. And it's not like everything is all, fine and dandy, but it's like you have a competitive advantage to work more and to have a higher value output than someone who hates it. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he says, when he's competing for Mr. Olympia, he's lifting like 1,000 times a day, and like he loves it, and like his competitors they hate it. And guess what? He won 6 times in a row, right? So my career, I didn't really put that much weight into it. I let my curiosity guide me. I wasn't afraid. So at the NJADA, I was interning for them. Great team, good group of guys, and yeah, I learned that hey, I didn't government work isn't for me. I think you learn a little bit here and there. I did a stint on a finance team. I was like, heck no, I'm not a cubicle guy. So I went into sales, and then in sales, I was like, you know what, like this hamster wheel is really burning me out of like the sales cycle. So I want to be into investments. I want to make cash flow and stuff. That got me into real estate. And yeah, I mean, so forth. I think it's just you get a spark, you learn something by doing. I think a lot of people they overthink making the right next move and they underthink how to execute on whatever path that they're on.
I totally agree. Like I've joined a lot of a couple of masterminds since getting my doctorate as well. The same thing. Like there's only so much courses you could watch and stuff you could take. You eventually gotta like just do it, right? And then sometimes you may crash and burn, sometimes it may succeed, right? But you just gotta like learn from experience, right? So I agree with you 1,000% when it comes to that, right? So
Yeah.
shout out to you. I love it, man. No problem. You and I are very similar. I've jumped into different industries. I've been in like food and beverage. I've been in hospitality. I've been in higher ed for the most part, and now I'm entrepreneurship training and real estate, right? So,
Mhm.
so my
Yeah.
thing definitely doesn't connect. My
Yeah,
LinkedIn
exactly.
profile. So,
Which is
all good.
great.
Yeah, which is fine. Which is fine. So tell us about Cornell Communities and how did you become managing partner? How did that all come about?
Yeah, so Cornell Communities, I was the founder, so technically, like I could decide whatever position I want to. I chose not to say, I'm the CEO because, like, honestly, I think there's a certain degree of, um, to me, I truly feel like my employees, my staff members, they're my teammates. I'm not above them. Nobody is above the work. And that's something that, it's one of our core values. No job is too big or too small for anyone. So, I think for us, um, Cornell Communities, it's kind of like a culmination of what we wish we had. So, long story short, when I was at Tesla, I started investing as a limited partner. So I was passive investing into real estate, and I learned a lot through, the 10 years that I've been an LP. And I know what I like as an investor and what I don't like. And Cornell Communities is kind of what I wish I had as a GP. So, some of the things is that I always make myself available to investors. They can speak with me and they can actually talk to someone in charge rather than like, get tossed to like a investor relations person and like, given the runaround. So I think that's the beauty of it. You kind of create the solution that you wish you had.
I love it. No, I love it. I love it, man. So you found Cornell Communities. Was this after Tesla or before Tesla?
Yeah.
Tell me. All right, can you
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So what happened at Tesla? I studied finance in college. I love investments. I love numbers. I did a nonsensical move at the time to go into sales because I wanted to face my fears. And, I didn't know how to hold a conversation. I wasn't good at public speaking. I hated sales. So I was like, you know what? I need to face my fears. I'm 22. I just graduated. So yeah, I can totally mess up here and like this could be a wrong career move and I'll still be fine at 24. And that's what I did. So I learned it inside and out, got burnt out because like it didn't really come natural to me. But hey, I mean, I did well enough that I was the top regional salesperson there. And that's just through like pure relentlessness and just repetition, just working on the skill. Then, I started passive investing into apartment buildings and I fell in love with it because I was like, wow, I can find a good group that makes money for me. I don't need to put in time. I get leverage on their knowledge, their expertise, and everything, which is great. So then I got my real estate license. I wanted to learn and earn. So I was helping people as an agent. The funny part was that I didn't really have a specialty as an agent. I picked my clients very carefully and I help them however I can. So I just looking back, right, the dots connect. I helped people in many different kinds of transactions, like affordable housing rentals to multi-million dollar mansions to commercial projects. It's like literally everything. And to me, that was super valuable. And then I was recruited to a real estate fund to help them on their acquisitions team. So, I learned how, the quote unquote big boys look at acquisitions, how they run their institutional models in things. So, yeah, I mean, after then, I started Cornell Communities and it was really just a culmination of everything, like what I said earlier, the dots connect when you look back.
you may think at the time you may think no, but they actually do connect somehow, right?
Exactly,
I
exactly.
love it.
And look, I think it's fine and dandy, for us to be like, hey, everything is great here. Looking forward, man, like the path was tough. There was a lot of self-doubt. There was a lot of like pain, resilience, like questioning, and like, yeah, but you have to keep going and you have to believe in yourself because nobody else will.
Exactly, 100 agreed. And some days I wake up really great, like today. Other days, like yesterday, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? So I get it. You gotta keep
Embrace it, man.
embracing and stay the course, right? And then
That's right.
one thing that's helping me is I've been trying to like stay active every day, like whether
Okay.
it's like a 15-minute video or actually go to
Yeah.
the gym. I just try to. I think it helps, man.
Yeah.
Mind, body, spirit. Not to get too spiritual, but I think it all kind of aligns.
Yeah. For sure, for sure. I think we under index for the body and spirit part. We over index for the mind. We're always like, oh, what can I learn? What can I do and stuff. But like we forget that our brain is this big. It's like 5% of our body mass, right? Compared to the rest of our body. So then we forget about it. We don't treat our body right. We eat bad food. I don't know, have bad posture and stuff. Like I get back soreness now and it's like crazy. And like I don't take that lightly. So, I actively figure out how to treat my body better because my body will take care of me. So I think everything is connected.
Sorry, I agree. I agree, man. So, starting Cornell Communities, right? Did you have any mentors? Like, I know you lead over 75
Hmm.
million in transactions,
Hmm.
operating 500 plus units, and I guess in the past I've worked with an acquisition team, uh, and I think it's
Yeah.
at a 4.5 million private equity firm. Like, do you have any mentors when it came to that?
Yeah. You know, it is very interesting because I didn't have mentors for the longest time. And that's why, in some people's minds, they're like, wow, okay, you've moved very fast. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, compared to my potential, compared to what I want, I'm actually quite far behind. And that's because I didn't have good mentor figures or mentors until very late in life. And like growing up, like I just didn't get that inspiration, right? That's why I didn't really try hard in school, which led me to have like an okay, I mean, I don't know, like an okay career. I'm not like investment banker at Goldman Sachs or like something crazy like that. But yeah, I mean, for me, I started by attending a few like mentorship mastermind groups. I paid for speed. And that I think is a hurdle that a lot of people overcome when they go from kind of the employee to entrepreneur mindset because like they're not used to paying this level of money. They're like, oh, it's expensive. But the reality is like your time is worth more. And if you pay for someone's experience and you leverage them and you determine to get your return on investment on them, then you'll make it work. I think people just assume like, oh, if I pay this amount, like this is going to happen to me. No, like no, nobody's going to babysit you. Nobody's going to make sure that you get a positive return. So that was the first step. And then I think that trained me to ask for help. I think that was one of the fundamental shifts of my life is that now I'm willing to ask people for help and also, of course, help people in return. And that is invaluable because, like, not everyone has a course or a program or something, right? Like, some of the best advice that I've gotten is just like from friends, other colleagues in the industry, other people that operate mobile home parks like me. They're running a small team and they've been through a thing or two. And, we compare notes and it's a symbiotic relationship.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I didn't. Similar to you, I didn't. I didn't have I had a couple of role models, but not. Still single. For a long time, single mom, right, until she got
Hmm.
remarried, right. But
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I was just like going with the flow. I didn't have a like clear path as far as my career, right? And then eventually later in life, when I wanted to do real estate, I was supposed to do it with someone that it wound up not working, and I seek mentors, and thanks to that, I paid, like you said, paid for their knowledge and saved a lot of time. If not, I would have probably still trying to spin my wheels, trying to do it myself, right? So
Yeah.
I wound up joining Mike Ely's mastermind, Amy Majuria's in the beginning as well, and then now thanks to them, able to do everything that I've done in the Carolinas and now Cincinnati. So I agree a
Yeah.
thousand percent. It really saved a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort for that matter. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And you'll make that money back
Oh yeah.
tenfold.
Yep, yep, absolutely. 1,000%. Um, how is it being a first generation immigrant shake the way you think about money, risk building, and building generational wealth?
Yeah. So I think the big thing was that we we were taught a different playbook. It's like some people are coded differently. Like we were coded to be scarcity, like mindset. We're like we want to save our way to wealth. So, I grew up in Asia. So, the prevailing thought there for a lot of people is like you save and save and save and save, and then you buy a house, and that's your investment vehicle. That's going to lift you one socioeconomic ladder rung up. So then your next generation, you guilt them into becoming the doctors, whatever, and like make great money, and then you hop up the next ladder. But like, I mean, the beauty of America is that you're empowered to do anything and everything. And the market doesn't care who you are, where you came from, what your background is. As long as you bring value to them, they'll give you the money. And I think learning that was a huge shift for me because I used to literally like I'm a chronic saver. I am so frugal and I can live on nothing, which is as an entrepreneur is a superpower because like basically your burn rate is lower, so you have a longer runway to make your business work. But to me on the investment side, like I was super risk averse, not doing anything fancy, and I was putting money in bonds, as an 18-year-old, and it's like, come on, man, like you have to take risks because you have to get the compounding up. Like, how do you build up your snowball? You don't build it up 2% at a time. You have to take some risks. You have to take calculated risk, not just like throw something at like I don't know, like a nice number, like hey, 15% return, like done. Here you go. Do some research, figure it out. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was a lot of YouTube, a lot of reading blog posts and stuff, learning and like just kind of reconfiguring my mind and like reading books. I think I was really fortunate in that my first mentors were the authors of books. And I learned how they thought, how they kind of got out of their situation. So that helped me sort of get out of my situation and sort of flip the switch from like scarcity to abundance.
I love that. I love that. And you was fortunate, like you said, to have your mentors kind of guide you through that. So that's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
same like yeah, similar to me. The Colombian background. So it's always about you save, save, save. You buy a house and then you retire, work 40 years for one company. That's it. But no, this generation, like you and I, are a lot different. So we understand how to build generational wealth. So I'm definitely breaking that cycle for sure.
Yeah.
I'm very
Absolutely.
grateful, of course, for my parents and my family.
Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt,
Yeah.
1,000%. So cool, man.
I love it.
I'm gonna shift a little bit. So people
Sure.
kind of misunderstand about mobile home communities and why'd you choose this asset class?
It's funny. No, nobody grows up being like, "Hey, I want to
Hey,
invest
I
in
want
mobile
to
home
own a mobile
communities."
park. Exactly.
Yeah, it's honestly it was by coincidence, being at the right place at the right time. So, basically I had my co-founder at the time, he sat me down one day, he knew I was in real estate. He had a, background in private equity. He went to Cornell, like super smart guy. And he, he did a stint at a real estate fund that was doing mobile home parks. And he's like, hey man, uh, let me walk you through this, why this makes so much sense. And I was like, wow, really? Because like there's so many characteristics of mobile home parks, manufactured housing communities that make a lot of sense. With the more volatile the economy, the more demand there is for this kind of product. Wow, that's like a no-brainer. So, I think two reasons that drew me into it. One is that it has to make money. I think people like to talk about like the great virtues and stuff, but like hey, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. And incentives drive behavior, and it's just like people are self-interested, right? Like if you're not making money, you could talk about it in like charity, right? There's a reason why charity people like work so hard to tug at your heartstrings, and like they still don't get a lot of money because like people are like, what's in it for me? So A, it makes a lot of money, and B, it's for a great cause. So for me, I really care about the impact. I really care about who I help and like how I'm positively impacting the world. So to be able to control and manage these projects and help improve these people's way of life and quality of living and give them a better, safer, cleaner place to live, that meant a lot to me. So, those two together, we set out on the difficult path of starting a private equity real estate firm.
I love it. And then, so how are you helping folks invest passively? Is it like is it set up as a syndication or no? Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about, explain to me like the mechanics on the back end of that.
Yep. Yep. So we typically do our deals as a syndication, which just basically means it's a deal by deal kind of structure. So our investors, they're generally like business owners or, high income earners, they're in like tech, finance, healthcare, whatever. And, they want to put their money to work. They're like, hey, great, here's this property in North Carolina. I love it. Here's 50K, here's 100K, whatever. And like our goal is to double their income or double their investment once every 5 years or less.
Got it. And then do you do the same thing like we do in multifamily, bridge loan, raise a certain percentage, force appreciation,
Yeah.
stabilize the rent, move it to a traditional loan, and then pay back, like you said, pay back their principal
Yeah.
and eventually 2x their money. Very similar.
It's a very similar model. It's kind of like quote unquote the private equity model.
Yeah.
You do that, you do your value add and everything. But one difference for us is like so the mobile home park industry is very stable as an asset class. So we don't necessarily use bridge loans going in. We just have regular loans, but we might even go to the agency. So like Fannie or Freddie. Get like a bigger loan that's like long term, non-recourse or something like that that makes sense. And then we just hold on to the asset long term.
Makes a lot of sense. That's the only difference between multifamily and mobile since it's a
Yeah.
stabilized asset. What we're doing
Yeah.
in multifamily is trying to stabilize the asset and
Yeah.
maximize the rents and which it
Yeah.
helps with the cap rate and all that jazz. So we could
And,
bore
and
you. That's a
also,
whole separate conversation.
yeah. Yep. Yep. And the one thing too, I will say as far as like what's different in terms of operating the assets between like apartment buildings, mobile home parks is the occupancy. So, apartment buildings, like people move in, people move out, it goes up and down. You want to like kind of get it up before refinancing or something versus like mobile home parks, like once people move in, they usually don't leave. The average tenancy is like 10 plus years. The difficult part is bringing units in because you have to get the units approved. It's like a mini development project. You have to get it approved, do the pads the right way, bring in the right homes at the right price, sell it off to people. So that's kind of the hard work up front.
Understood. Yeah, that makes sense between the mobile park and
Yeah.
multifamily. I love it, man. One of my last questions to you, man, is what is the biggest mistake real estate investors make when evaluating a deal or operations? I guess regardless of asset class. I guess it's more general.
Yeah. Huge one that I've learned myself too is don't trust the pitch deck. It's like I used to do it because I'm like, oh wow, 18% returns here. Yeah, I would do that over like some random like 14%, 12%. Like, yeah, who cares? And just invest in like the sexiest looking marketing. And that's not the reality because you have to understand that these investments are like real tangible property. Like I can walk to my property and see it with my own eyes. It's not like stocks or like crypto. It's like a abstract concept or something. It's like, all right, well, okay, here's this property, and how can this property perform the way that these guys are saying it will perform? How well can they execute? How well do I trust their execution? How much do I like the asset class, the market? So actually like testing your assumptions and like talking to the sponsors. And that's also why, I make myself available to talk to a lot of investors is because they want to know from the people in charge like what's going on behind the scenes. Like I have nothing to hide. So that's super important. Like you have to talk to the people in charge, kind of figure it out. Like, what's your track record? How many times have you done this? If it's a new asset class, why are you doing the new asset class? There's people that pivot from like, I don't know, like industrial space to like retail. Like, why are you doing that? And like, how are you certain, right? So asking those questions.
That makes a lot of sense. Don't take the pitch deck for face value. And I always say that it's always about the team I mean, and almost like interviewing like a job, right? But interviewing for your your money,
Yeah.
right? So being able to like understand the team and making sure they have experience, or like if it's someone new, at least like who's behind them. That it's not all new team, because obviously that's red flag, right? So
Yeah.
making sure they have
Hmm.
mentors or people at least behind them. So awesome,
Exactly.
man, awesome. Final thoughts for anyone looking to invest into real estate, whether it's actively or passively.
Yeah, the one thing that I wish I knew back then, well, I did know, is that leverage is key. Leverage in your money, other people and stuff. And like I think a lot of people, especially like real estate investors, when they go into it, they want to do everything themselves. They want to buy a duplex, fix it up, live in it, rent the other one out and like roll it through. I mean, sure, like that's great, but it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to put a risk on your assets, because like if you default on a loan, like a lot of people are losing money in residential real estate, but like, you know, your assets are on the line at the bank. So like there is a certain degree of risk, cost, time, and like what is your time worth? And I think asking that question and being honest with yourself is really important. And a lot of people are like, well, hey, like why not work harder at my business and make like 2x more money rather than trying to learn this whole thing and buying myself a part-time job? So, just asking yourself the questions, taking the steps, learning along the way, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that was a big learning for me.
I agree, 1,000%. Yeah, yeah, and that's a good point. Like you just mentioned, that you wanna be involved in the fix and flip and the day to day. And a lot of people think because they watch HGTV that it's sexy, but it's not. It's far from
Yeah.
it, right? And do you really want to be
Oh,
involved in that, or do you, like you said, do you want to build your existing business, right? Build it where you could 2x, 5x, 10x that, and then just like you said, invest passively in whether it's an asset class, what you're in, and as far as mobile parks or
yeah.
multifamily, what I'm in, or something like that,
Yeah.
right? Would you
Yeah.
rather go that route? But it's
I will add, I've spoken with so many investors, like
yeah,
so many investors. Like people are one bad tenant away from giving up this
yeah, that's
part-time
true.
job.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, absolutely. So you have to just be careful with that too. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. Where could people find more information about you and or some of the deals you have going on?
Yeah, sure. So two ways to reach out. If you want to learn more about mobile home parks, how we're generating people basically 2x returns in 5 years for accredited investors, you can go to our website, cornellcommunities.com. That's CORNELLCOMMUNITIES.com. Or if I could be a resource, happy to help where I can, answer questions. My LinkedIn is Leo Young, LEOYOUNG, and my Instagram is Leo Young Real Estate.
Love it. Easy to remember. Leo, thank you so much. Fantastic guest. I enjoyed our
Definitely. Thank you,
conversation.
Dr. B.
A lot of similarities as far as our
Yeah,
careers and then what we're doing now. So it's pretty cool to
absolutely.
see other people are like-minded individuals.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yep.
we gotta do it
And
again.
and yeah,
If you notice, I didn't get too mechanical because I don't want to bore
yeah.
folks. But next time we can go down a rabbit hole and talk about cap
For
rates and
sure.
IRR and all that jazz.
Yep. For sure. There's a lot. Yep.
There's a lot to cover. Thank you, Leo Young, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. B.